This one's for the culture. Me and wifey in the room thinking of a master plan, thinking how we can influence the culture from where we stand. Knowing that our steps are ordered by the master's hand, still 10 toes down, we ain't switching up the stance. The mission of this music ain't just to make them dance, trying to tell them about the rock.
And welcome to another episode of The Bond Chronicles. I am the lovely host here of episode 21, Mr. Bond Chronicles on Instagram and Mr. Ray Bond on Twitter. And I'm blessed to be here with my host,
Mrs. Bond Chronicles on Instagram.
21 episodes, ladies and gentlemen. 21 episodes.
Because I don't use Twitter.
Well, maybe you should. Twitter's where the news is. Twitter's where the entertainment is.
I'm plenty entertained by the rest of my social media. I don't need another one.
Okay, so she doesn't have Twitter anymore.
She has it. She just doesn't use it.
Might as well not have it.
Maybe we should change it to the Bond Chronicles Twitter.
We have a Twitter.
Do we? Do we?
Yes. What do you mean? Lord have mercy. Well, if you've seen any tweets from the Bond Chronicles on Twitter,
clearly from him.
Clearly we're not from my host here. So that actually kind of leads into what we want to get into on this episode. We talked to you guys at the end of the last episode and said that we're going to be doing some things. And I have talked to a couple of you, so thank you very much for your time and your attention. And 2 shows in a row, I've forgotten my water, so that stinks. With that being said, we do want to keep trying to innovate things. We want to keep trying to make sure that we're providing you guys with the best content and the best quality. And a lot of times we see that in friendships where friends, you hope, if they're your friend, want the best for you. The problem with that is sometimes those friends who you've had for a long time, they knew you before you got matured. They knew you before you got in a serious relationship, before you became a parent, before you got a corporate job or became a business owner. And they don't want to let go of yesteryear. They still want to party until 4 a.m. They still want to do things that may not be conducive to a more mature lifestyle. So when you have those friends that either 1, keep living that way, or 2, if you are that way, what kind of responsibility do your friends have to tell you to, quote unquote, grow up? And so I will start with some of it and then I'll kind of let you go from there. So a lot of this fostered for me. I watched a television show recently and it really brought to light all sides of this equation. The aspect of there were 2 friends and they lived their best life. They were the life of the party. They lived in the moment. They tried things. They experimented. They lived, the best life that they could live. And the problem became as they both matured and grew up and moved on in life, one woman settled down, had kids, and she was really struggling with not being who she used to be. And the other friend was still living that life. So when they would interact and talk to one another, she would see that side of her life, and that aspect of her life kept calling her. And even though she had a great home and a great suburban life, so to speak, she missed, quote unquote, the city life and the fun life. And her friend was kind of telling her, listen, I get it, but you have a great thing. Don't mess up this great thing that you have because you're trying to relive those years. Those years were fun, but we got to let that go. And so in my life, and I think most people can relate, there comes a point, and there's not an organic time or there's not a set time when this happens, but I've seen a number of different memes where they say there was this one day that nobody knew was the last day that we all met, and it was like a green box. And so when we grew up, everybody would hang out at the green box or where all the bikes were. And for all of us, there came a day when that was the last day, but we didn't know it was the last day. And so what does that process look like? Or if you see a friend who is failing to mature, what kind of guidance do you provide as a friend when you used to be that way, but you're not that way anymore?
I guess there's a lot of different ways to look at that. Um, because if you say that they're failing to mature, you mean they're failing to mature mentally?
So no, they can still go to work, but maybe they spend their entire paycheck at the club and at the bar versus investing in their future.
Okay.
So they and for this example, they might keep a steady job, or it could be someone who can't keep a steady job.
Yeah. I mean, because people are so different. I think it really just depends on the situation, depends on the individual. If you have friends who won't quote unquote mature, I guess it's always important to look at how well they quote unquote adult. We're all kind of like winging it, figuring it out, trying to make sure that the decisions that we're making now aren't super harmful to us in the future. So, in most cases, as long as a friend can keep a good job, like they're not constantly asking for money or, come bail me out of this situation or that situation, like it's kind of to each their own how they decide to live their life. So, in terms of if I see you and I'm concerned about the way in which you're living your life, sure, I'll ask questions. Try to figure out where your head is at, what you what you want to do with your life, what you want to do with your future. But everybody, I think, takes their own path to figure things out. Unfortunately, for some people, it takes them a longer time to figure things out. And you just pray that when those people do figure things out, it's not too late for them to steer onto a path that is right for them. But I don't think there's any necessarily one way to judge how well someone else is adulting. Like I said, besides like being able to support yourself, if you have kids, support your kids, your family. I don't know. It's tough. I think it's an awkward thing to even put yourself in a position to tell someone, hey, I don't like that you're going to the club every weekend and spending X amount of dollars every weekend and you haven't settled down with a family or, any of these things, because maybe those people don't want to do those things. Like, I like to travel and I like concerts. If I had it my way, I would go to concerts every opportunity I got, literally every opportunity. But that's not conducive to the fact that I've got almost 4 kids and we live in a place where, we get a decent amount of concerts, but it would take a lot of our resources for me to live that life all the time. Mm-hmm. I make the responsible decision to not do so. Someone who also loves concerts but doesn't have the same lifestyle as me, they're going to go to the concerts. And who am I to say you should be saving your money and investing it in whatever, or you should be doing XYZ with your money because you should be planning for your future family. Like, I don't know. You never really know what somebody else's financial situation is. You don't know what somebody has planned for their future. So you can
These are your friends, though. I feel like
if
they're friends, you should have an idea of what their life is like.
Right. So you can ask and you can...
I mean, you can see it.
And you can see, but
if you go to their house and there's a bunch of bottles at the top of their cabinet, but they don't have a ton of furniture. Or you start having general conversations like, so, do you have a will? Do you have life insurance? Do you have a college fund? Do you have a significant person in your life?
But so again, yes, some of those conversations as friends you do have. But outside of your job, did you have life insurance or even care what your life insurance policy was before we got married?
No.
And I know I didn't care about life insurance or anything until I had Courtney. So if most people are not, when you're not in a position where you're thinking about life insurance. Like, we don't have wills, but we have 3
You're making
kids.
my point.
I'm just saying, like, that's not for lack of maturity. Like, we know we need them. We just
that is lack of maturity because we could afford to have all of that, but we've spent our money elsewhere. You sacrificed one trip that would have paid the cost of all of that.
So I sacrificed one trip for something that you weren't even thinking about before.
Right, because I was uneducated. But if knowing the group of people that I'm surrounding myself with now, knowing the television shows or the podcasts or the things that I'm watching, had I known that those things existed, had I been educated on that earlier in life, I would have done things differently. Like, I didn't know, you're right. I did not think about life insurance, but what got me to really look into it is I was on a call with some gentlemen, and it's like a happy hour for young Black men. And they were talking about the importance of having life insurance, and not just for yourself, but having that conversation with your parents. And so because of I'm not friends with these people, but because I was a friend with one of the men, and I was invited into that environment, I was then educated on it. And at that point, yes, it was made aware. And so now I've had to have another conversation about it. And I looked into it, and then some things happened, and I made a decision, probably ill-advised at this point, to not move forward because now I'm older, so the price will be more. But I think I guess the point in the conversation is, should your friends say something? And you're saying, well, I don't know what your life is like. I feel like that's, as a friend, you should know.
And so I'm not saying no, don't have conversations with your friends about the decisions that they make. But if you don't agree with those decisions, then where does the conversation go from there?
And I think that's the point of the topic. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to elevate your village, as you say, and again, life insurance, if you don't have life insurance, I don't think that's a toxic trait. The point of this was more so a toxic responsibility. If you have women that are regularly dating poor men, not poor in the sense of money, but just low quality. If you know people that make bad alcohol decisions or drug decisions, like if they're pawning their kids off to their grandparents so they can go out and live a life that you should retire by now. That's more so the area I want to focus on, is what role as a friend do you have in that person's life? And to your point, if you're saying, hey, stop running out and sleeping with all these dudes on the weekend, you have 2 children at home that your grandmother is keeping or your mother is keeping. Like, should you have that conversation? And if so, how do you have that conversation?
And so again, like, exactly, how do you have that conversation with somebody? Because it's like,
I mean, I can tell you my perspective. I was trying to give you an opportunity.
And for what it's worth, like, I don't think your perspective is necessarily, like, I know how you talk to people, and I'd like to think I know a little bit about how you think and how you value relationships. And I can imagine you having this conversation with someone and it go way left, because you're not always a very sensitive person. And so you can have this conversation. You can try to understand why said friend feels the necessity to sleep around, why said friend feels the necessity to live whatever lifestyle that you don't agree with. But at the end of the day, if that's the lifestyle that they want to live, and they're set in their decisions as to how they're living, there's not really a whole lot you can say or do to change how somebody's living their life.
So like, then what do you do as a friend?
What are you supposed to do? Like, you support them in the good things that are going on in their life. You support them because you, as a friend, and so, one, what type of friend is this? Is this like somebody that you're super close to, that you really care about? Is the behavior...
So you have friends you don't care about?
Not necessarily that you don't care about, but you have acquaintances.
We're not talking about acquaintances. These are friends.
So then, yeah, like, as long as you're not killing yourself and what you're doing isn't harming the people that you love, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, you're a bad person. I can't be cool with you because I don't agree with the decisions that you make. That's just as dumb as telling somebody I can't be friends with you because I don't agree with all of your political beliefs. Like,
people do that a lot.
But I think it's dumb. Like, life isn't that cut and dry. You can be cool with someone and not agree with everything that they do. And then if you're the type of person you have to have a hard line in the sand, then you can't be cool with that person. But a lot of people don't operate that way.
Interesting. So I pretty much disagree.
I know.
And part of it could be that I'm a man. It could be that I care about people that I care about a lot. So I don't care about a lot of people. Like most things, when I read and see it on the news, I'm not moved.
You're not a very empathetic person, is what it is.
Not to people I don't know. People that I do know, I feel like I care too much. And I actually had this conversation with someone else recently that I've overstepped boundaries with people, and even the relationships that I've been in have probably could have continued if I didn't care as much about feeling like I was done wrong. If I would have just tucked it and dealt with the situations differently, I feel like I'd probably have a lot more friends. But for me, if I allow you in and we are quote unquote friends, then I expect a certain level of accountability. And so what? You
expect a level of accountability of how you expect someone else to live their life? Or you expect a certain level of accountability based on how someone else treats you? Because those are two different things.
Really both. So like for me, I have people I know. If I see them participating in things that I think are problematic, I believe I have a responsibility to say something to those people. And it could be something simple or it could be something more extreme. I believe if we are friends and I have your best interest in mind, then I'm going to call you on said thing.
Yeah.
And so that can look a lot of different ways. But I feel like most people that I would consider friends know me. And so I'm not necessarily going to, depending on what it is, I'm not going to necessarily just wipe my hands of them. But if at a certain point their lifestyle doesn't align with my lifestyle and you're not trying to go where I'm trying to go, I think naturally we're just going to fall off.
Yeah, in some ways, I agree with that.
And so, and I would hope that when people see me, if they see something that ain't right, that they would say something. And not just once. If they continue to see a pattern that they believe, that they deem that could be detrimental, I would like to believe that they would pull me aside and say, hey, man, like, I don't know what's going on, and try and have a conversation around it. But ultimately, I would expect them to say, listen, you're doing this and this is problematic and this is why. And if you keep doing this, in my experience, I've seen this. Or I know you don't realize it, but it's impacting these people in this way. And if you keep going down that road, it's not going to end well. I believe that's a responsibility of a friend.
So I have a question. Mm-hmm. Just, because I know some of your friends or people that you used to hang out really heavily with. Mm-hmm. You have spoken many, 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 many times about how firmly and adamantly you are against cheating. Mm-hmm. Cheating on your significant other, however you want to put it. But you're firmly, strongly against it. You have friends mm-hmm. who cheat on their women. Mm-hmm. You have friends who have cheated on their women mm-hmm. for the duration of their relationships.
Right.
And do you say things to them about it?
So those people you speak of, I don't think I really speak to them much anymore. I don't.
But even if you don't speak to them anymore, you still firmly believe that they're your friends. You're good friends with them. And if one of them called you, or if you called them, and we've had this conversation, if you called them and you needed them, they'd be there for you.
Right.
And vice versa.
So that would exist, but because they've chosen to not make those changes, we can't hang out like we used to hang out. Like me knowing the type of person you are, I'm not going to go out with you knowing what your intention is. Like if I know you're going to, and I don't go to the bar or the club, but say I go out on weekends and, I like to party or whatever it is. If I know that your intention in going out is to find someone to cheat on the mother of your children with, or your spouse, we probably are not going to go out.
Yeah.
Like but if you're a mechanic and you live that life and then something happens to my car, I'll call you and be like, hey, my car's tripping. Can you help me out?
So you'll use a person.
It's not using
them. I don't want to hang out with you because I don't agree with your lifestyle.
Right, we can still talk. We can still talk sports.
Hey,
so we can
come fix my car.
Right,
that's totally using a person.
That's not using a person. Like if we have other things that are in common, I can talk to you. We might like sports, so when football season comes, we might go to the game together. Because I know in that scenario, that's not what you're going for. Like you can be friends with someone, but still call them out on their stuff.
Right. And you just said, if they continue to live the lifestyle or do the things that you disagree with, you don't have to be friends with that person.
I don't.
And it's probably better because the upward mobility that you're aiming for in whatever form or fashion it may be, said person isn't going to be conducive to the new life you want to live anyway.
Right. Like I probably would not bring them around my girl.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not going to come to my house. I'm not going to leave you at the house with my girl while I run to the store. Our friendship's going to change.
There are limitations.
There will be safeguards put in place because I know that you have a propensity to be a dog.
I don't know. Like, it's just interesting to hear you, I guess, reason within yourself how what I said is right. Because you can pick and choose what you want to deal with as far as quote unquote toxic traits from people who you consider your friends.
Yeah. Just like if I had a friend that was a crackhead and they kept stealing from me, I would not have them around.
You wouldn't have them around, but would you try to get them help?
To a certain extent. But once I realized
they don't want the help.
And drug use it's hard because it's a disease and blah, blah. But if they're not getting any better and they just keep smoking crack, nah, bro. You got to go.
So, said person who wants to go to the club every weekend, you don't agree with lifestyle. You think it's a complete waste of money. Bars are a rip off. The club scene is super dead anyway. But you're my homie. What does it matter? Why does it matter to you? Because if you're not bringing them around the new friends or the new people or whatever new environment it is that you're cultivating for yourself, why does it matter that friend who you see maybe a few times every couple months still goes to the club every weekend? Right.
And and you're just saying I do club and party, but I club and party with that person? No. I don't. Then I'm not going to go. I don't go. I know people that still go out, the bar and stuff, and I don't go with them. And we used to be super tight.
Yeah.
But at this point, I realize that's your life. I'm not going to keep trying to beat you over the head because my life has changed and I feel like I found a better life. I'm going to share with you and you're going to see that ain't it for me. But if you choose to do that and you still handle your responsibilities, cool. But if your whatever said trait is now, say you have a gambling habit.
Yeah.
And now your kids is missing meals. Your mortgages ain't getting paid. And so when you get to a toxic situation, typically I can't do nothing with that.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. But if someone's, whatever you want to call it, habit or whatever, isn't something that's detrimental to them living a responsible life.
I wouldn't consider that toxic. That's just a trait that they have.
But you didn't start off the conversation with saying toxic. You just said, how did you...
I have toxic.
I mean, that's...
The notes say toxic.
But that's in the headline. The question that you posed to me was, what do you say or do when you have friends who won't grow and mature? And what I'm saying is, how do you gauge
the toxicity?
But now, if they are toxic, then yeah, most certainly, if it's somebody that you care about and someone that you're super close with and you want to see the best for them, you definitely say something. And as a good friend, you do whatever you can to aid them in helping them see that what they're doing ain't it. But if it gets to a point where they can't see it, won't do it, and have no desire at all to change, then, you be here for them when they are around and you live your life and hope for the best for them.
Cool. So, what's so funny?
Nothing. So
the next aspect of this is, and I've had this look or happen in a variety of ways. Mm-hmm. So keeping with that initial theme, and you can tweak it as you see fit.
Yeah.
So say you call out said person. Could be a friend, could be a family member. I've had both situations happen. And you break off that friendship or that relationship. What is the role of the friends and family that got to know that person through you?
It's like if I break up with my ex-boyfriend, y'all can't be friends with my ex-boyfriend anymore too?
That would be the scenario.
I mean, as far as ex-relationships goes, like, I don't particularly invest in people's relationships until I know it's permanent or not. So that in these certain situations, I don't have to feel compelled to be friends with anybody except for my friend. Specifically my female friends. Like, if you break up with a dude, he ain't my boyfriend. He wasn't my friend before before y'all were together. So I'm going to stick with my friend. Oh, I mean, even my guy friends. I don't have a whole bunch of those left anymore. But even my guy friends, like, if we were friends before you and this girl got together, and specifically, I guess it depends on the relationship that you've built. For me, it would depend on the relationship that you built with said ex-boyfriend, ex-girlfriend, whatever. Then it becomes a little bit more finagled. Personally, I'm still going to take...
Is that even a word?
I don't. Yeah, sure. It's a word because I said so.
Okay.
Sure. I'm going to pick my friend who I'm obviously closer to. I'm going to pick their side. But if I feel like they were wrong in the situation, I will say something. Like, I've been in this position where my friend broke up with, and actually I'm still friends with his ex-girlfriend. My friend broke up with his ex-girlfriend because he felt a way about some things that she had done. And I had to look him in the face and be like, you're super duper duper wrong, because you have also done said shady things in the relationship. So the fact that now the karma has come home, like, you look a little dumb, in my opinion. And that conversation didn't go well.
I could understand.
We didn't speak for a minute because he felt away. And I was like, well, I'm going to call a spade a spade. You're wrong. And I'm still going to be her friend. And I'm still her friend now. And yeah, but it's stuff like that can be super difficult. But if I don't have any relationship.
No, specifically, like, you've become friends with them. Like,
yeah.
And I think that's a great example of specifically when you had a guy friend and it was a girl that you met. Mm-hmm. And now y'all hang out without that individual at some point.
Yeah.
And so y'all build your own separate relationship. And then their relationship ends. And that, I guess, regardless of who was at fault, but more so when your friend was the one at fault, and they no longer deal with that person, but you still do. And if you put yourself in that situation, like, what's the stand? It's just like, oh, well.
I mean, and that's kind of like what you got to chalk it up to. If your friend lets you know that they feel a way about you still hanging out with said person, it really just boils down to which relationship you value more. And it's like it's a difficult place to put yourself in, because obviously it's just easier. You were my friend first. I'm just going to rock with you. You know, the other person can go on to wherever you left them. But especially in situations where your friend was the wrong party doing wrong in the situation, like I'm an empathetic person. I'm not going to just rock with you just because you were my friend first. Like, you are wrong in said situation. And it's not my fault that you can't see that you're wrong in this situation. If you feel a way, I hope that you can get over it. We don't even have to talk about other person. Like, and I'm not going to be carrying information back and forth between the two of y'all. So if that's something that y'all want to do, y'all can leave me out of that part. I can be cool with both of y'all and keep it separate. But if y'all can't keep it separate, then I'm not going to stress myself out over it.
But as long as you feel like you have a good enough relationship with the other person, regardless of if your friend is bothered, they just got to get over it.
To an extent, yeah.
Okay. So once again, I disagree. And
go figure.
I believe I'm on the island on this. I've talked to a number of people in different families, even different cultures and backgrounds, that specifically, I think the issue becomes with marriage, when lives and families are built and then people get divorced. And the divorce rate, last I checked, was still about 50%. So a ton of people are getting divorced. When those families divorce, the exes still be around. They still be on social media. They still go to different functions. They can even remarry and still be included in like family events. And for me, I have no idea how that happens.
Now, are you talking about in just relationships, period? Or are you talking about marriages that resulted in kids, or people who've been married for like 15 years get divorced? Like, that's 15 years of investing into a relationship with family.
You can use either scenario. If it's a new marriage, if it's a marriage with kids, all of that. For me, if I was initially, and when I was coming up with this, I tried to think through my friends and situations. When my friend has been out, I'd be out. And nothing wrong had to happen to me. I just feel like that's where loyalty goes. I feel like if you was my friend from the jump, I appreciate you introducing me to this person. But yeah. And actually, I have a friend right now that was introduced to me through an ex. And like, we've remained friends, but that's also because they fell out. Like, their friendship didn't last.
Why didn't their friendship last?
Part of it was the situation that ended my relationship with them. But then I also think there were some things that transpired through the ending of my relationship that they had drama that presented itself. And so
they're a messy person?
Who? The ex or the friend?
I mean, from the way you set up, they both sound messy, but I guess the person you were able to remain friends with, if they were involved.
So in my situation, me and the ex were breaking up.
Yeah.
Part of our breakup was due to a lack of faithfulness. The friend in question was helping me figure out that my ex wasn't faithful. So when my ex found out that the friend that they introduced me to was helping me, they felt away.
I don't feel like we've talked about this story.
Well, we can talk about it another time.
I'll tell you how to talk about it now. But I don't feel like we talked. Like you said when you were saying your ex, I wasn't associating that.
I don't got that many.
I know, but still, like the way you didn't say it in a way
that was the strategy. There was to be that way.
Oh, my bad.
I mean, it don't really matter. But regardless,
yeah.
That led
so technically they were messy, but they were being messy for you.
For a good cause.
For a good cause.
And I don't even know if that's considered messy, but for the sake of this conversation, you can call it messy. But in those scenarios, like I've had family members and they broke up. And I didn't have necessarily a problem with the family member, but as support for my actual family member, I got to cut off all communication.
Family, yeah. Like if I break up with somebody, what do you have to talk? Especially if it's not somebody that I was with for an extended period of time, not somebody.
But what if you were
time with? If you spent time with said person and you actually built a relationship with them, I mean, I'll be. And okay is a light word. Like you want to wish them happy birthday every once in a while, but I don't like if you like out kikiing with them, brunches and stuff. I'm going to feel it's like, wow, especially if the person is trash or I think that said person is trash. Like I am. I will say something about an ex. Now, if it was just a friend and me and friends had falling out, like you kind of got to eat that. I mean, I personally feel like you kind of got to eat it. I mean, I've been through the situation at least 3 or 4 times in the last 4 years. And at this point, like, I don't take it personally when people pick a side, like, depending on each individual situation, like, people are adults, people can have conversations, and I'll tell anybody till I'm blue in the face, if you feel a way about me, come talk to me about it. And unfortunately for me, a couple of times where those friendships fell apart, like, I'm just like, I didn't even know all of this was going on. So people are talking and not communicating with me about how they feel. And then I get put in a position where I have to explain myself for things that I didn't even realize I was doing wrong in said friendship. And then it all implodes in my face. And I'm just like, well, dang, like, I don't even understand. But if you've been expressing how you feel about a situation to other people who you confide in about how you feel about me, like, that's your prerogative. I can't make somebody feel differently. I can't explain away somebody else's feelings. I can only account for my actions when I know what they are. So if you want to pick said person's side because you want to pick their side because you empathize with how they feel, then that is what it is. And obviously people that I hold closer now because friendships, especially at an adult age, they're hard to cultivate and they're hard to sustain. Because a lot of days now, people don't make the time, I guess, to really invest in deep, meaningful friendships. A lot of friendships now are surface level. And I would like to think that I'm the type of person who can navigate it any way that it boils down because I value the people who I hold important. So I'm not going to force you to pick a side.
And so in my situation, I agree. I did not. There was, the main situation, I didn't, except one person. And that went awful. That failed miserably. But I just feel like, especially when one party's done wrong, I like to think friends would stand by you and not the person that did you wrong.
Yeah, and that's
but that sure doesn't always happen. A lot of times we talk about the toxic things. When it becomes a group friend or there's multiple friends associated, they pick the person that they might like more now.
Yeah.
Even though that person's trash or did something wrong.
And that's another way, I guess that's another way that you have to look at it. If you start making people pick and choose sides and you lose your whole circle of friends, and then on top of that, you lost i.e. your situation, you lose your spouse. But not only did you lose your spouse, you then lose the family that you've built a connection with. You lose all your mutual friends who you thought were going to choose your side. And then you're sitting on this island like, well, dang, am I an awful person? Like, why did everybody pick that side instead of my side? And then you start asking questions of yourself, like, am I actually the person who did something wrong? Am I this? Am I that? Am I this? And all of that takes a really hard toll on your mental health. It kills your spirit, and it can take you to a really dark, ugly place really fast. And in that kind of place, like, I mean, my mom's an open book, so I hope she doesn't mind that I say this. But when my mom and her husband got divorced, like, so much stuff happened. And for a long time, my mom was so sad. And it was like, I could see that she was sad. I could see that she was hurt by the people who weren't her friends anymore. I could see that she was on that island. And I'm just like, I have no idea how to help my mom. And, you know, she's finally getting back to a place, and she's finally back in a place where she's happy and vibrant and herself again. But that losing those kinds of relationships, all based on the actions of another person because you had to pick a side, like, that makes life crappy.
Agreed. So no, I just think it's hard, especially in the world we live in today, where the world is so much smaller and people's lives get so much more entangled. It's tough that the world is full of crappy people. And we always say, oh, I want more friends. I want more of this and more of that. And everybody posts about how bad the friends are. But kind of to the first point, what happens when you are the bad friend? When you're the trash individual? When all these memes about fake friends and everything and you're the fake friend.
But do you know you're the fake friend?
You got to, I think so.
In the premise that we were just working with, people were picking the wrong side.
But that I've had a number of these cases instead of just the marital one. Like, it's obvious who's wrong. Like, people do screwed up stuff. If you sleep with your man's man,
yeah,
like,
you're a bad person, or you've made a really, really bad decision.
Like, if you're stealing from people that you know, like,
you're a messed up individual.
There's a lot of these situations that even when people do that, the other friends and family still associate with that person. And then it makes it super awkward when you want to hang out with groups. You got to ask, so are they coming? Or who's going to be there?
And that's the other...
Because they haven't disassociated with said individual.
Right. And that's the other side of this. Because let's say, for whatever reason, you do get... And I've had this conversation. Like, what happens if those friendships, the relationships are mended? Can those friendships be the same? And to me, I think it depends on the level of disrespect and the level of hurt feelings and maturity that's shown throughout the breaking of said friendships. Because if they're petty or you're petty or there's a lot of tit for tat pettiness, stuff going on, social media, people go on and they post stuff or conversations get had during the break of said friendships, and then even residual feelings from the fallout.
Yeah.
All of that has to be taken into account when you're thinking about trying to mend those relationships. And I've seen this meme a million times. And it's like, be an adult, be mature, mend relationships that you find important. And it's like, yeah, that sounds great. But if my feelings are hurt behind the reason why the fallout happened to begin with, that friendship is probably never going to be the same. Because one, I'm going to look at it like, you did that to me once.
If I let you off the hook, you're going to do it again.
You're going to do it again, probably.
And that's my issue with cheaters. And you talk about that. And I feel like if someone cheats once, it only gets easier after that.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with cheating on a test, stealing, anything you do once you've done it once, it's always easier to do it a second time. And if there's no, in my opinion, accountability, or it's short-lived, in my belief system, is going to happen again. And you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing is true in friends. If you got a friend that does screwed up stuff once and y'all fall out, but then they come back and I won't do it again.
Not even if they come back. Like, again, like as a person.
I'm definitely not going to be the one proactively saying, hey, I know you stole from me, but hey, I got you, buddy. Come on back. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
I mean, not even necessarily being stolen from or a situation as, like dire as that. But people fall out now over all kinds of things. You fall out over a misunderstanding, a disagreement about how somebody's living their life.
That's fair.
And then, time passes some way, somehow, you and person or a group of people are able to be back in the same space. That same space isn't the same anymore. Okay. Like everything's different.
And I've been through that part too, where as the third party in the equation, when I got brought back in, the other person looked at me funny, like, oh, so we wasn't really that cool anyway.
Yeah.
Because now you back, but you had cut me off for said reason. And I had to have a conversation with him like, that's just what it is. Like, that's who I am as a person. And if the situation was reversed, I would do the same thing. Now, it doesn't mean that our friendship wasn't real, but my loyalty was still here. And that's just kind of, what it was. So that's really all I have for this. But what?
You didn't want to hit that last little bullet?
No, because we got the new structure.
Oh, yeah, new structure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, got the new structure.
New structure. We were trying
y'all see what I be working with here. Lord have mercy. You don't even be with it. I'm trying to keep on. I was trying to give you the.
You weren't. Though.
I was. If they could see, like, I was like circling, doing some things subtly. And like I said, y'all, please play that we never get caught up in anything, because there's been a number of situations where this one will not help us get out of it. But thank God we haven't been there. So that's...
Go ahead and close out.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Okay, great. So, as I have begun to say and will continue to say, in life, things happen. You have the power to choose what you do. Choose wisely. Always bet on you. Like, share, and subscribe. And remember, Jesus still loves you. Later.